I feel like my older sister and me are so different, right? So like she's very book smart, listens when she's like told to listen, like very much to the book, doesn't like to break the rules. And I don't know if it's because I saw that, I just want to be the exact opposite.
Yeah. What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Alannized, and this is Noche de Pendejadas, your favorite podcast turned talk show en donde yo traigo a tus influencers favoritos para platicar y posiblemente sacarle sus trapitos al sol. El día de hoy les tengo un episodio que yo sé que allá en casita ustedes están súper emocionados de ver y escuchar. So without any further ado, please help me welcome my guest tonight, Nick!
Yeah! See, I'm gonna say I got like 42% of that.
Okay, we need more claps, y'all.
Yeah,
we need more claps.
Okay.
How are you? Welcome
I'm doing
to the
great.
podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm actually so excited. I was telling Alan earlier that I see a lot of your clips, and I remember I had watched like one of your podcasts a while back. I can't remember if it was with it was with Christian. You had Christian on.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to watch because he said that he had a great time, that you're a great interviewer.
Thank you.
And he said that he loved the set. And literally the second I walked in, I'm like, this set is amazing. Like it looks like an actual like full on like talk show that could be on the TV.
It's so crazy because I feel like a lot of people don't really know like the studio. They know that we have a studio, but like I've never really given like a full blown up like tour just for like privacy reasons. So when they like walk in, since they really only see like the blue curtains and like this little background, they walk in and they're like, oh shit, this is nice. Le invertimos, amigas. But I'm so excited that you're here with us today. Fun fact, you guys, when we were like coordinating everything, both of us didn't realize how like close we lived from each other. When we were trying to coordinate, I was thinking like, oh, he's probably coming from LA, so like let me give him a time where he can like skip traffic. En cuanto dijimos en donde vivíamos, amigas, we're like, chido, 10-20 minutos. How was the drive? What did you do?
It was easy. I mean, it was 15 minutes. So I was telling Alan earlier, so I'm born and raised in Fullerton. Right now, I'm living around like the Brea area.
Okay.
It's so funny because it is so rare for me to meet content creators that live literally a city like down from here too. The only ones that I really know are like Logan and Julian, and we've known them since we were like...
They live like, they're literally my neighbors actually. Like super
so
close
they
by
grew up in Hacienda Heights, and then they lived in Anaheim Hills. And then now they're just in the apartment complexes right across the street from Angel Stadium. So it's always great to see content creators here. Like I was telling Alan earlier, when Karen and Eddie are asking me to go to something, I'm driving 2.5 hours back. If I'm like, yo guys, traffic's gonna be ass, I don't think I can make it. They're giving me some bullshit and I can't, and then I feel bad not going, you know?
And then you're like, fuck, I guess I'm gonna be stuck in traffic, chingue su madre. But I feel like it is very real. Like we were just talking about that too. Like a lot of content creators either live like passing LA, like Ventura, like fucking like Six Flags area, or hasta la chingada acá in the IE. I feel like we're right in the middle. I feel
you're
like
not gonna catch me in the Inland Empire.
Right.
I'm not going to the Inland Empire.
Hey, we're literally like at the border. So that's good. But I'm so excited to have you here today. Como te estaba diciendo, I feel like, you know, a lot of people know you, but I feel like you don't open up like too much. So I'm really excited to like get to know you a little bit better. I feel like this is our first time meeting, and by the time I leave this interview, I'm gonna be like knowing so much about you. Yo estoy bien emocionada, amigas, de pues poder conocerlo un poquito más. Before we get started with today's interview, for those that may not know you, give us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, guys, my name is Nick Grajeda. I am 25 years old. I currently have a podcast with a bunch of my like hometown friends. I think the oldest friend that I have on the podcast is Madhu, and I've known her since I was 10 or 11 years old. Yeah, and then I also live stream on the side as well. Definitely been taking it a lot more serious over the past year, and I've fallen in love with live streaming. I don't know what it is. I feel like with the podcast, obviously, I love having a podcast with my friends because literally my work is to hang out with my friends. So it's the best thing ever. And then when you live stream, I feel like you're able to break like another wall with your audience. You know what I mean? Because now I'm actively able to like talk to my audience. I remember when we were first doing the podcast and people used to ask me for like advice on like what to do with their lives or just anything in general. They would send me like an email or like a DM. Sometimes occasionally like I would like to answer back. But I feel like when you have a live stream, you can actively see and you can talk.
Because I really do feel like that. Like especially when they leave comments on like a YouTube video that's like pre-filmed. It's like, Alan, how did you get through this? Or like, Nick, how did you go through that? And it's like, well, you'll see it in the next video I upload. episode in like a month.
Right?
Like,
No,
I'll answer
yeah,
it back.
yeah.
But I feel like with live streams, and I feel like that's why streaming and just live streams have been and have become so popular. It's because it's that like instant interaction with the audience. Si alguien te anda preguntando en el momento, le respondes en ese momento. You know what it is? I feel like growing up, I don't know if you ever had like this mindset. Like, did you guys ever, like when you guys were growing up, like, and you guys had like your favorite celebrity or like actress, would you guys ever be like, I wonder what Justin Bieber is doing in this exact moment? You know what I mean?
I would
like,
think the exact
you're
same
in
thing.
school and you're like, I wonder what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm in this stupid ass fucking class and he's probably like living it up on an island.
What the fuck is he doing? So I feel like live streams kind of like give you that like direct connection to like your favorite creator, because like if you're wondering like what Nick is doing and if he's live, you're like, oh shit, like I'm over here watching him on my couch on my bed while he's literally doing whatever the fuck he's doing. So I really do feel like live streams have become a way for, you know, a creator and an audience to connect in a greater level. You know, ya vamos a empezar con el chisme que les tenemos preparados el día de hoy, amigas. I want to go ahead and start this interview to really get to know you a little bit more. And I feel like to do that, we have to start with, you know, your childhood. You know, we have to start with little Nick. Tell us a little bit more about your childhood. What was it like growing up for you? What were things you loved doing? Cuéntanos un poquito más.
Growing up, I feel like the best way I could describe myself was just like a little shit. I would just talk too much in my classes. I'd mess around too much. I never listened to anything my parents told me. I feel like, so I have one sibling. I have an older sister. And I feel like my older sister and me are so different, right? So like, she's very book smart, listens when she's like told to listen, like very much to the book, doesn't like to break the rules. And I don't know if it's because I saw that. I just want to be the exact opposite. But like growing up, I was just always getting into trouble. Like either me and my friends were out too long, or my mom would tell me, hey, like, you should probably not really mess with that like that beehive over there, and then I'd go and mess with that beehive or something like that. But mostly, like my childhood, I would say it was mostly spent like outside. Like a lot of my friends make fun of me because I didn't really grow up with like video games, because like I don't know what it was. My mom and dad didn't like me playing video games. They thought that it was gonna like rot my brain, all that type of stuff. So they kind of like made me just go play outside, right? A lot of my childhood was just outside. I used to play soccer. I love soccer. At one point, I don't know why, I thought I was gonna be a professional soccer player, but I was ass. I was terrible at soccer. But I think a lot of my childhood also was just spent with friends. Don't get me wrong, I had a great household. My parents raised me the best way they could. But I feel like for me, my whole life was just around my friends. Like it was like, okay, well, if I'm feeling down, my friends were there. If I'm feeling up, my friends were there, you know? So I feel like that's also carried on for so long in my life, where to the point of like, I've kind of realized like how to like nurture my friends. You know what I mean? And like realizing that they're always gonna be there for me, you know? Which is awesome.
What was the age gap with you and your sister?
So my sister's 28. So she's 28. Okay. Yeah, because I'm about to turn 26. We're about 2-3 years apart. And we went to the same high school. So she was a senior, I was a freshman. I think that was the only weird thing growing up, was just when I was a freshman and she was a senior, and then I'd just be doing too much. Like we'd be at school dances and she'd get embarrassed of me doing too much, like at the dances and stuff like that. But we have a good relationship now. I feel like once you move out, I don't know, do you have any siblings?
I have 4. Me and my sister are actually the same age gap as you and yours.
Gotcha. Are you the youngest or middle?
I am the youngest.
Okay,
the youngest.
Your parents love you the most?
I feel like growing up, yes. I feel like my mom and me were really close growing up, but I feel like as we got older, I feel like she's gotten closer to my sister just because she's more around her. But I do definitely agree with like the whole, you know, going, because I was also a freshman when my sister was a senior. So it was kind of like, I always felt like she was like embarrassed, you know? How was your guys' relationship growing up? You say that you guys have a great relationship now, but what was it like growing up?
I would say it wasn't the best. I feel like for a lot of the time, we just, like I said, just had such clashing personalities where we just didn't get along. We shared a bathroom too, like back at our house, and it was always like one of us knocking or banging on the door to get the one out.
Put the toilet seat down.
Put the toilet seat down. Why is there pee all over the toilet? Stuff like that. And like I said, we just didn't have a good relationship growing up in the house. But once I think I moved out, because what happened was, so she was living at the house and then she moved out for college and then she came back while I was still at the house. And then once I moved out to go to like university, because I went to junior college for 2 years, I feel like that's when we started to like mend our relationship. Because I feel like a lot of times when you're just in a really enclosed space with your family, you guys can't really grow until y'all move out. You know what I mean? Because then it's like you can miss them and you're like, oh, well, like, I miss these moments that we had and stuff like that. And that's when you start FaceTiming each other more, and then you start making more plans to go out and have dinner and stuff like that. So I'd say that that's when our relationship started to grow a lot more.
I really do feel like, you know, obviously I have 4 siblings, you have 2. Well, I have 3 siblings, I'm the 4th. I feel like when you're growing up and you get to like that like stage in your life where you're really trying to discover yourself or you're trying to figure out who you are, I feel like your siblings become annoying. Your siblings become, they're telling on you with your parents. So it's like, it becomes like a, I quítate aquí, mocoso.
No,
you know
dead
what I
ass.
mean?
No, dead ass. Yeah, my sister was
literally.
snitching on me all the time. Like, we would have friends over. One thing I do like about my parents a lot is that they like to travel a lot. So they'd leave me and my sister at home. And obviously me, I'm like, okay, well, they're gone for a week. This wasn't a time where the ring was around. There weren't a lot of security cameras. And I would throw a party or something like that. And my sister would get pissed and she'd tell my parents and stuff like that.
Candace from Phineas and Ferb.
No, it really is. It really. And then my parents come home and they're like, your sister told me you broke stuff, that there was a party here. And I'm like, it's spotless, right?
You're like, where?
Yeah, I'm like, where? It's
lying,
good. Yeah, I'm like,
literally.
she's lying. There's no way she's like jealous or something like that. But like I said, eventually though, yeah, she's apologized for it and stuff like that.
It's like sibling shit.
Yeah.
Like everyone, I feel like it's such like a universal experience that we all go through. Like I feel like you said, we really do have to get to a point where we're all independent and out of the house to really appreciate what we had growing up. You know, what was your house environment like? Do you feel like you grew up like in a loving, strict household? What was that dynamic in the house?
It was definitely a loving household. I feel like growing up, my dad wasn't really around a lot because he just worked. He worked a lot of hours. He was the boss of a water company, so he'd come home really late. He would have like really late meetings and stuff like that. So I probably wouldn't see him until like, I don't know, some nights I didn't see him until like midnight or something like that. And that was if my mom would allow us to like stay up to see him. Weekends he'd work too, or he'd be out doing contract work or something like that. So it was a loving household. I would say that the one thing though is I feel like I get my work ethic a lot from my dad because he was just working so often. And I feel like his whole thing was like, I need to work to put food on your guys' plate. You know, I'm doing this for you guys, stuff like that. So I feel like that's one thing that I like about my dad and I get from him is just that he's just a workhorse. And you know, he didn't even want to retire. Like that man's like 70 and he retired like a year or two ago. You know, he was just a workhorse. Like that was just his life, you know?
Do you feel like that's come with like downsides too? Because obviously it's a great thing to be a workaholic because I feel like I can also, you know, relate to that. Like I saw my parents, both my parents always working, that I feel like now as an adult, I'm always working, but you know, maybe your dad, because he was always working, he kind of, you know, wasn't there emotionally or physically to be with his family because, you know, that mentality of like, oh, I'm a provider, right? Do you feel like that's something you struggle with now to where you're like, fuck, like I prioritize work so much because I know my future depends on it, but I'm also lacking in like the family aspect or like any of those
I feel
areas?
like in the past year or two, I've started to really like dive deeper into that where I'm like, well, because my dad, I feel like his whole thing was that life is work. Right. And I feel like over the past year or two, I've realized like, I don't want my life to be work. I don't want to work. No offense, Dad. I don't want to work 68, 70 years of my life and then retire and I didn't get to go on more trips with my family or be there for my kids. My dad, I think, always did the best that he could. I feel like another thing, I've talked about this like in the podcast and on stream before, where like one of the reasons why I don't speak Spanish as fluently as my mom and my abuelita lives with us and she only speaks Spanish, right? Is because when I was growing up, Spanish was my first language, but my dad, whenever he'd come back from work or he'd take care of me, I would ask for things in Spanish and he wouldn't know what I'm saying, you know? And my dad is fully Hispanic, but he grew up, you know, a different time. He grew up in the Central Valley, and in the Central Valley, there were a lot more discriminatory towards Hispanics, especially if you were like darker skin and stuff like that. So a lot of families didn't want to teach their kids Spanish because if you had that accent, they wouldn't let you in the public pools. They wouldn't let you in certain restaurants and stuff like that.
They would discriminate against
you.
Yeah.
So I understood why my dad didn't speak it. And I understood why my dad kind of wanted my mom to teach me more English. We talked about this with my friends too. When we were going to school, I grew up in a very like heavily Korean like area. And I feel like my parents also thought that I would be a little alienated if I was going into these schools speaking Spanish or asking my teacher for like agua or anything like that. And they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But sometimes I think about it, I'm like, Dad, it's like 3 words that I'm asking when I'm young, like leche, agua. What else?
Tell us a little bit more about your relationship with your parents growing up. I know you have a great relationship with your mom. How would you describe, you know, your relationship with each of your parents growing up? Would you consider yourself, you know, as a child closer to your dad or to your mom? And how have those relationships changed as an adult?
I feel like growing up, I was just very isolated to myself. I think that's also why I'm so close with my friends is because I didn't really have the best relationship with my mom and dad because I was just, you know, you go through that stage where you just don't want to be alone and stuff like that. And you feel like all you have is just yourself or your friends. I feel like growing up, like after high school and getting out of college and living on my own and stuff like that, you get to reflect on like what your parents did for you and you're able to appreciate them a lot more. And my mom is literally my rock. Like she is always there for anything that I need, whether it's like a business question or a friendship question or it's girl problems or anything. My mom is there and there's days where she tells me something and I'm like, Mom, you don't know, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, you're old, like, you don't know anything. And then a week or two later, she's right.
Yeah.
She said the exact thing that was gonna happen. So she's literally the best. My dad, I would say we've gotten a lot better with our relationship. You know, I feel like specifically with Hispanic fathers, it's a bit harder to say like I love you, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and to get that back, and you know, to hug and get that physical affection.
I also feel like they didn't grow up with that.
Exactly. Yeah, my dad grew up very, very different. Like, he grew up on a farm. He had, you know, 3 siblings, and he was always moving. You know, he's moving constantly. I didn't get to meet my grandpa. My grandpa died before I was born, and I mean, I've only heard good things about him, but I do know that my dad had like a rougher upbringing, and I feel like when I think about the way he like raised us, I always try to just think, you know, he raised us better than his father. You know what I mean? He's always just tried to do his best. So I really can't knock him for that. And I feel like I said, like, recently it's gotten a lot better where I'm able to open up to him and I'm able to like understand him. And if he's criticizing me for something, I'm not angry about it. You know, I feel like when you grow up and your parents criticize you, it's like, why are you on me? You know, like, you don't know, like, blah, 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 blah. But now I can take it in and be like, you know, like, you have a lot of wisdom. I should be listening to you. You know, I shouldn't be getting angry or mad about it. But my parents, I think I would have like a really, really solid foundation with my parents. And like I said, my mom is just, she's literally the best.
I feel like that's very normal too. I feel like as children, nos echamos a nuestros papás like the enemy, right? Like, we see our parents as in like, oh, they don't want us to have fun or they don't want us to, you know, enjoy life. And it's like, as a parent, you're like, yeah, you can enjoy life, but at the pace that you should be going, right? Because I feel like, you know, it's so funny. And recently we talked about it too. My brother-in-law, my boyfriend's little brother, he is 15. He just turned 15, and he's also in that stage where his friends are his everything. Like, so bad to the point that like we've even gotten like at it with him, like, bro, like, fuck your friends. Exactly. Yeah, because he'll be like, we'll be at like a family gathering and he's
gotta
like,
go. Yeah.
Like, just on his phone, but his friends come around and he's all hyped. Or like, we'll be at like his mom's birthday. This is like the recent thing. We did a whole YouTube video where like my boyfriend and his little brother went at it because, you know, in January, my suegra lost her brother and we were celebrating her birthday later that month.
Gotcha.
The little brother was like, can I go with my friends? And we're like, bro, read the room. We're celebrating your mom. Fuck your friends. Like, and it was like a whole thing, right? But what I'm trying to say is like, he's in that stage where like his friends are like his everything. And we as a family, we're like, hey, like, hello, like, you know, but we also do know that he's gonna get to a point in his life where he's gonna realize like everything that his family has done for him, because I feel like he lives such a good life. Do you feel like that was like kind of like a learning thing for you?
When you're at that age, obviously everyone goes through that thing where it's like their friends is their whole life. And even though I've stayed very, very close with my friends from high school, the majority of my friends from high school, I am not friends with, right? And it's so funny because, like I said, once he's like 21, 22, maybe even younger than that, he's gonna be like, I don't know why I was trying to leave. You know, I should have been there. There's been moments with me too where like I've left certain things, family gatherings, events, because I wanted to be with my friends. It's like, just shut up, man. Just stay, enjoy the moment. If I could go back, I'd beat the fuck out of myself at like 15. I really would.
Today's episode is sponsored by Highly Dating App. One thing I realized about dating is that the most meaningful connections happen when people show up as themselves. That's why I like Highly Dating App. A recent survey by Highly found that more than half of young daters have gone on a date with someone who looked different than their profile photos. And honestly, that's one of the most frustrating parts of online dating. You want to know the person you're talking to is actually the person you're meeting. It encourages you to show your personality and connect through shared interests, values, and compatibility. I also like that the app's smart matching learns who you genuinely click with over time. It makes the experience feel less like endless swiping and more like meeting people who actually fit your vibe. I've recommended Highly to a couple of my single friends, and let me just say they've loved it. Ustedes saben que mi amiga Irma siempre anda buscando a su media naranja, and I told her about Highly, and so far she's been loving it. For anyone who's tired of trying to seem perfect and would rather build a real connection, Highly feels like a refreshing approach to dating. Download Highly Dating App from the App Store or Google Play, or visit highly.com. That is HILY.com. Date as you are with Highly Dating App. Now let's get back to today's episode. how are you in school? Like, how would you describe Nick in school? Would you describe yourself as like academically blessed, or were you a burro? Were you like, I'm too focused on being the popular guy? What was that like whole high school experience or middle school experience?
I was just a really big like class clown. I always try and make like everybody laugh, talk to everybody. And the one thing that I'd be able to get away with it was because I would say I was pretty like smart growing up, but only in like the things that I like cared about. So I was always good at math. So I was always good at my calculus classes, but my English class, my Spanish class, all that, I was getting C's and D's. My AP classes, I'd pass because like for some reason, like that was more important to me. So all my other classes, I would just talk in. I would just talk. I'd get in trouble. I would get like FYIs, detention. I got suspended from school, just doing too much, being a little shit. And it's just funny though, because I remember distinctly, I had this one Spanish teacher and I was just always doing too much in his class. And I remember he told me one time, he's like, you talk so much, you're not gonna do anything after this. He's like, and he was definitely like a terrible teacher, but I remember he would just tell me like, you're not gonna go anywhere after high school. Like you're gonna peak in high school. This is it for you. Yeah. And then after this, you're gonna be a nobody. And I just remember I was like, yo, fuck you. Like that's a crazy thing to say. And now, you know, I have my own podcast. I live stream. I've met so many amazing people. And it's just so funny that people want to tell you like who you can be and who you are. And I'm just so happy that I've been able to like make a career out of what I used to get in trouble for.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit earlier that a lot of your friends that you currently have in your life today, you know, you met at 10, 11 years old. You know, the first one being Maru. Tell us a little bit more about how you met your friends. What was your first impression of them? What were the friendships like at the beginning? And how did you see the friendships evolve over time?
I would say like starting with Maru. So we met when she actually moved here. She's Korean, but she was born in Argentina. So she moved over here when we were like in the 4th, 5th grade. And I don't know what it was. Like I remember we met Maru and out of nowhere, we just kind of clicked. We would hang out all the time with our big friend group. She lived literally right down the street from my house. So we would bike over to her house. We would always hang out and stuff like that. And then in high school, she had gone to a different school and then we kind of reconnected because then she transferred to our school. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but like with the friends that I have in my life currently, I've always somewhat known that they were gonna be there like forever. Obviously, you have those friends that you pass by and you're like, oh yeah, that's my friend or that's my best friend. But you kind of know that they're not gonna be around. But I don't know, just like with everybody who's currently in my life, on camera and off camera, it's just like, I see them and it's just not awkward. I always say this to my friends, like I've known them in other lives to the point where I see them now. Like it's so funny because we were like at this Mexico watch party and then we went out. I don't know if you've ever been to Treehouse in LA.
I've heard a lot about it. You know what's so funny? I had just seen a TikTok of Karen and Eddie talking about that, like in their podcast, and people were like, they're always at Treehouse.
So I don't know what it is, but I've heard like a lot of good things about it. But I went and I was with people who like weren't like my like main friends. I had like one, like Devin was with me, but they weren't like my like really close hometown friends. And it was the first time ever where like I had like an anxiety attack. I don't know why. It was just a lot of people. I was like overwhelmed. It was just loud music and I just felt like super claustrophobic. And I remember in that moment I was thinking like, damn, I really just want to be around my my friends. Like I wish my friends were here. Like, and I realized like they genuinely do bring me like comfort. And I feel like that was one of the moments too recently where I was like, dude, like I love my friends, you know what I mean? Like they're the best people ever. That was just strange, and it was weird too, because like I said, I never really had an anxiety attack before. Eventually, like I calmed down, but it was just a really funny feeling.
Do you feel like as you've gotten older and like obviously, you know, as kids, I feel like friendships are very like, my friend,
surface level,
very surface level. But do you feel like as you've gotten older, do you feel like the relationship with your friends have gotten deeper?
Yeah, I feel like especially as a man, I would say a lot of people, or I hear a lot of stories about how it's a lot harder to open up, or all you're doing is just getting drinks with your work buddies, or it's just golfing, or some people have friends where it's like, oh, this is just my drinking friend, this is just my going out friend, whatever, shopping friend. And with my friends, it's like I can see that there's a deeper level. Like I pick up on certain cues, right? So people come in the house, maybe they open the door a little weird, or maybe I make a joke, or they're not making as many jokes, and it's like, something's up, you know what I mean? And the cool thing is too, they pick it up with me too. It's really cool because like I said, if I'm feeling down, and they also know obviously, and I also know not to push too hard, you know what I mean? Like maybe they just want to be distracted for the day. Maybe they just want like to go out and grab some food. On a deeper level, it's just kind of picking up on certain like physical cues with each other, realizing like when to back off, when to give someone space, not overstepping. Like, you know, you've known someone for like 10, 12 years, and I work with all my friends where I know how to kind of like speak to them and they know how to speak to me. We're able to handle things and leave it at that, you know?
Have you guys ever had like a miscommunication, misunderstanding where maybe you guys have stopped talking, you know, for a period of time? If so, you know, what do you feel like as someone that's had friends for so long, what do you think it's like important to like navigate when you are having those, you know, arguments that for a lot of people end up becoming like okay, well, I'm arguing with my friend, you know, we're falling off and we're not going to reconnect. Fuck that shit. Like, how do you feel like you've navigated like times like that?
I feel like a lot of times it comes to ego. I've seen a lot of people where like they're too proud to make that extra step to reach out. Like, oh no, they messed up. Like they did this wrong. I'm not gonna reach out. They should be the one reaching out to me. And it's like, well, if that's truly your friend and that's truly your loved one, it shouldn't matter, you know? And even if it's just to get clarification, I feel like I tell my friends this all the time. There's always like two sides to every story. There's always something different, right? Like if I have an interaction with somebody, that person has had a completely different interaction with me than I did with them, right? Because they might have noticed something different. They might pick up, they might overthink, you know what I mean? Whereas
or they
for
perceived
me,
it differently.
Exactly. And sometimes you need that clarification. And I feel like when you're getting into it with your friend or you guys aren't on speaking terms right now, it's important to like, just reach out. Just reach out. Hey, you know, if you truly are my best friend, if you truly are somebody like one of my loved ones, let's get some food. Let's figure it out. Whether it's yelling at each other, whether it's like talking shit out, let's just do it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of times people let their mind run. And that's when they start thinking about different things, and that's when it gets worse.
Like confronting them in their mind, but it never gets to like actually like talking about it in person. They're like, oh, in their head, they're like, oh, I already played out the whole scenario, how it happened. We're still gonna fall off, and that's it.
So like one of the things too is because of what I do and because of like where I'm at with all my friends, I feel like the business and the podcast, I feel like I've been everyone's best friend, boss, HR, coworker, like all that, right? So I've also kind of realized like if there's disputes within the group, kind of like how to like facilitate that, right? And I always tell people like if there is an issue in the group, don't let your mind run, just go figure it out. You know, I'm like, if you want me there, I'll be there, that's fine. It's never happened where I've had to be there, but every single time they've talked to each other, they talk it out, and it's okay. You just need to take that extra step to make sure that they're okay, you know?
A lot of people know, a lot of my hometown friends I've known all my life too, right? And I feel like I have friends that are moms. Sometimes, you know, especially when you're living different experiences and people, you know, as we get older, we're all handling or trying to handle whatever we're living in the moment. I feel like sometimes because you can't understand the place they're in or you can't, you know, relate, it can sometimes get rocky and it can sometimes get hard. Like for me, I can say that like sometimes I feel like there's moments and seasons where I don't connect fully with like my friends because I'm like, oh shit, like I don't know what it's like to be a mom. I don't know what it's like, you know, to take care of 1, 2, 3 kids, right? And then have a marriage and then have, you know, all this stuff, which we're all living life at different pace, which again, they probably don't know what's it like to be in my shoes, right? So I feel like sometimes a lot of friendships can just like, you know, mellow out and you just stop talking to that person completely. But I feel like it's very important to try to understand when your friends are going through different seasons where they have to handle shit by themselves. How do you feel like you handle that? Or how do you feel like you navigate when like your friends are going through different shit or they're not on the same path as you, but you still want to make sure that they know you're there for them?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of it comes down to like nurturing and just being understanding. So obviously, I have my best friends that we do like content with and stuff like that. But I also have like a group of best friends that it's like, I guess like the bigger friend group who all work regular jobs. Like they're finance bros or they got their 9-to-5s or they got families to take care of and stuff like that. And I realized younger, and I've seen it with like other friends where sometimes like a jealousy thing where it's like, okay, well now you got this job, now you got this girlfriend and you can't even reach out to me. You know what I mean? And even though I understand that it's still like, well, you're also not actively trying to reach out. With my friends who have like these jobs that take them away or they got to go on business trips and stuff like that, I still check up on them. Hey man, how was Dallas? You know, they do have like these jobs that take them away. I always am quick to say like, hey, how was Dallas? Hey, like if you got the time, let's go grab dinner. Even if I get them only for like an hour, that's still important. You know what I mean?
As adults, I feel like knowing and respecting what each of your friends are doing. Like, I've been doing social media for over 10 years, right? So I started in high school. I feel like a lot of when I was starting to chase the dream that I saw so clear of becoming, a content creator and making this my career, I feel like a lot of my friends, because they couldn't relate, like they would be like, oh, se cree famoso, or like, oh, he's always busy, like going to events. And that used to get to me a lot. I've talked about it recently that maybe within the last like maybe 3 years, I stopped having that guilt of like, oh, el se cree famoso, or like, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like the way I see it too, it's like I can respect my friends, lives to a T, but it's like they also have to put themselves in the shoes of like, well, what if this is Alan's life Monday through Friday? This is what I do Monday to Friday. So of course I'm gonna want to chase my fucking dreams. Of course I can't be here because I gotta travel. You know what I mean? So it's like it really does come down when you have a friend group that you've been with for a long time. You have to really respect and understand where everyone is in that time of their life. And then when you come together, like you come together and it's a blast and it feels like times have never changed.
No, exactly. I totally agree with that. I feel like it's funny that you bring that up because when we started like, the podcast and everything like that, and then we started to gain more like attraction when we would get invited to things or there'd be things going on, I'd be like, oh, well, we got to go to this, right? But my friends are doing like a little house party down the street. And it's like, okay, well, no offense, but like, I want to go meet people. I want to go introduce myself to more people, like be introduced to more people. And I feel like there was definitely that sort of like miscommunication where it was like, whoa, so you're famous now. So you can't come to the house party anymore. So now we're not good enough for you. And it's like, it's not that, bro. It's like, I'm doing this because I want to do this. And I'm still seeing you guys like when I can, you know? But I think there was definitely like a stretch of like a year or two where, I wouldn't be hanging out with my friends. Like I want to go out and meet new people and stuff like that. Or we'd have to film and we wouldn't be able to go to like a pool party or anything like that. And eventually, again, like I said, I think that also weeded out a lot of people in my life who I'm happy like stayed and who I'm happy I left. Like a lot of people, like, oh, Nick switched up. Oh, like, bro, you're too famous for me now. Oh, bro, like, what's going on with you? It's like, bro, like this, if you can't respect that I like what I do and I love what I do,
as content creators, and I feel like it can differ for a lot of people, maybe if you're having a situation similar to where your friend that isn't a content creator, you guys are going in different paths. I feel like it just comes, like we've been saying, it comes down to respecting and being like, you know what I've told my friends too, because I've had conversations and I feel like all my friends, which I love now, we're all on like the same plate. I feel like to me is we see our friends, let's say twice a month, whatever, parties or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking to them throughout that month or whatever, but like they don't see, or I don't see what their Monday through Sunday looks like when you're not seeing them. So obviously, like you said, for you had to chase your dream if that's what you saw, like, oh shit, I gotta go network, I gotta go do this, do that, because you're Monday through Friday, you're chasing that dream that you're seeing for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really do feel like, if you have friends and you feel like you guys are drifting apart, like don't make it a thing where it's like, oh, fuck them, fuck this. It's like understanding like, hey friend, I haven't seen you. Oh my God, I've been seeing you're so busy. Like you're a mom now, or you are trying to go to college, you're doing this, but like give them that space sometimes that people need to grow and really work on their dreams. And, it's magical and it's beautiful when you get back in that same room with the friends that, you always loved, Today's episode is brought to you by Cash App. Don't you just love how fast and easy it was to sign up and get started? Because I do. Cash App does more than you think when it comes to having your back and making sure your money stays your money. If you direct deposit at least $300 in paycheck each month and use the Cash App card for purchase, you can unlock up to $200 in free overdraft coverage. If you overdraft unexpectedly, there are no hidden fees. Manage your money on your terms and take advantage of free overdraft coverage up to $200 on your Cash App today. I love Cash App, amigas, porque en verdad que sí me hace la vida super fácil. Whenever I go out with friends, you guys, I hate splitting up the check because I feel like it makes the waiter's job a little harder. So normalmente, amigas, yo pongo mi tarjeta and then everyone else after Cash Apps me their part. Así de simple. So for a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For reals, just download Cash App. Use our exclusive referral code ALANNOCHE in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial service platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's banks partners. Prepaid debit card issues by Student Bank, members FDIC. Direct deposit, roundups, overdraft coverage, and discount codes provided by Cash App, A Block Inc. brand. Visit cashapp.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Now let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about you going to college. Tell us a little bit more about that. You know, after high school, you decided to go to junior college.
Yeah.
What did you go for? Where did you go? What were you trying to study?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that experience.
College was an interesting experience for me. I had like definitely some ups and downs in college. So when I got out of high school, just because like I said, I just did not pay attention to school. I was always going out. I remember like I said, the second I hit 16, I got a car and I was like never home. So I was ditching class, like not doing what I should be doing. Because of that, I remember I applied to certain colleges and I'm like, oh dude, like I'm gonna get in these colleges. And I just got denied from everywhere. And so that kind of like, you know, was a really big kick in the ass to be like, okay, well, my only option is to go to junior college. I kind of don't really want to go to any of my local colleges. I want to go to like a sick ass college and work my ass off and get connections, stuff like that. So I was really set on going to USC. When I went to junior college, they had this program where if you were part of the honors program, if you kept like above like a 3.5 GPA, you got all your classes paid for. So I went in the honors program. I met with my counselor, I don't know, like once a month, every other week to make sure that I was on track, because I told her, I was like, listen, I only want to be here for like one semester. And she's like, okay, well, that's not really possible. You have to do the full year. And I'm like, nah, like I'm gonna do one semester. I'm gonna try and make it to USC. Tell me what I need to do. And she's like, okay, well, you need to do these classes. You need to do this volunteer work. And another thing that's really cool is actually because of that, and because I was trying to go to USC, I did volunteer work with a lot of kids that got separated at the border, whose families came over here illegally. And like, this was back when, I think this is underneath like Donald Trump's like first, what do you call it? Like his first presidency, when he was separating families at the border. And I think that also really, really opened up my view on like my culture for one thing, and also like what's been going on. And that's also why I am very outspoken about what's going on with like immigration and ICE, and why I try and help any way I can is because like when you see kids, young kids, like I work with kids like that were under 18. And the sad part is, you know, the kids that were over 18, if they couldn't find any families, they get sent back right to the country where they're trying to get away from. And I feel like when you see a lot of these kids that come from a lot of these really messed up countries, families, houses, whatever the fuck, and you kind of see like that trauma in their eyes, or they're quiet, and it's like, why are you quiet? Like I wasn't quiet as a kid. That just hits at home. You know, like that really fucking hits at home. And so that's why I'm happy that I took that route to try to get into these prestigious colleges, because it also opened up that doorway into seeing like more things. You know, I think it's really important for people, especially like young kids, to do volunteer work, just in general, because like I said, it exposes you to more things, and you're doing it for a good cause. You're not doing it for extra money in your pocket. You're not doing it for like any malicious reasons. You're doing it, like I said, because it's a good thing to do, right? Because I was doing that volunteer work and I was going to school, and I was trying to also start the podcast up and stuff like that. My days were just shot. Like they were just like, it was work at 7 a.m. I worked in my admissions department of my college. And then afterwards it was like classes until 6. So some days it was till 6. And then we do the podcast and then I have to edit. And then the other days it would be work at 7, school until like 3. And then it'd be volunteer work until like 5 or 6.
Booked.
Yeah, so just booked and busy. But like I liked it, don't get me wrong. Very little sleep, man. People talk about how bad like my eye bags are like right now, but you guys should have seen me back in college. Like it was
this
just,
is good.
Yeah, like this is good.
Progress.
This was good. Yeah, compared to when I was like
those eye patches.
Yeah, no, if they had eye patches back then, maybe
they probably did. You just didn't know.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I just found out about
TikTok
eye patches recently.
wasn't around.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That would have helped me. But yeah, so then when I was doing that and trying to get into USC, like I said, I was just really booked and busy. I had very little free time. I remember my friends, same thing, used to give me bullshit because when my friends were out at like parties and they were getting drunk and stuff like that, I was like editing the podcast. You know what I mean? Like I was at home on my stupid ass like laptop and it'd lag out like all the fucking time because it was like what, a 50 gigabyte podcast that I had to edit. And then on top of that, I was also doing like the clips for the TikToks and stuff like that. So it was just so much stuff. And then I was able to get into USC. I ended up getting in just after one semester at my junior college. But at that time, that's when COVID hit.
Oh,
and so when COVID hit, I was going to USC because I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on campus. I'm gonna make all these connections. I'm gonna join a frat if I have to join a frat. That's my whole point for going. When COVID hit, they were like, yeah, no one's coming on campus. You guys can't come. And they were charging full tuition. So it was like 70 grand to go to USC, and I was just gonna take out student loans for it, which is also stupid. I'm happy I didn't do that. And when COVID hit, they sent out an email about it and stuff like that. And they had said, by the way, school is still going to be full tuition if you're trying to go. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to pay full tuition to take classes online, right? So I ended up doing another year at a junior college. And then after that year, I kind of had to make a decision on, do I go to USC, which is in LA, and leave everything that I have? The podcast was doing all right. It wasn't great. Maybe I was pocketing like $300 a month, maybe. Yeah. And like I said, I was also working my job and stuff like that. I had to make a decision. Okay, well, do I fully send this podcast, stay local, go to my local college, get a degree in finance, or go to USC, throw everything and kind of take the safe route, right? Where it's like, I can, because usually people say like, if you go to USC for like business or stuff like that and you join a frat, you can kind of get work anywhere you want, because they're very much like
the prestige.
Yes. They want to see like that document that says you graduated from USC. Yeah. And if you go to where somebody was in your frat, like anywhere at another job, they'll hire you right away, because they're like, you know the handshake, like the secret code and stuff like that.
That's the homie.
That's the homie, exactly. So you get a one-up on everybody. So it was kind of like one of those things. And I remember I talked to my mom and dad about it, and it was so funny because I was scared of what my dad was going to say. I was scared to tell my dad, like, hey, this is when I was going to drop out of college.
Was education like a big thing growing up for you guys?
Yeah, very big. And another thing too was my older sister, she's like the star of the family. Like, she has her graduate's degree. She went to Chapman University. Oh, okay. Yeah, she's a physical therapist. She's so fucking smart. And I'm so proud of my older sister too. And she's another person that makes me want to work hard. So it was also like trying to tell my family, while my sister's at graduate school, tell my family, hey, low key, I think I'm gonna drop out of college and kind of pursue something that hasn't really bared too much fruit, right? And I remember I went over to the house, because at the time I was living in my apartment, and I went over to the house and I was just nervous. I remember I was sweating. I was like, all right, I'll tell you guys something. And my mom was like, oh, what's wrong and stuff like that. And my dad's like sitting at the table, like eating his food or whatever. And I'm talking to my mom and I'm like, I think I want to drop out of college and, pursue this. I remember she dropped everything. My mom has never dropped cooking before. Like, if she's at the stove or whatever, she's like, wait, we'll talk about it at the dinner table. I remember she stopped everything, turned the stove off, and she looked at me like in awe, like, what? And she just goes on this rant, like 30-minute rant about why I need school, why I should be taking these opportunities and stuff like that. And my dad was just quiet. And I was scared. I was like, my dad's about to pop off. And then, my mom just goes and she's like, you're like, to my dad, and she's like, you're very, very quiet. Tell him that he needs to stay in school.
Back me up.
Yeah, back me up. And I remember I went to sit down at the table with him, and he's like eating, and I remember so distinctly, he puts his like spoon down and he looks at me and he's just like, I wish I would have followed my dreams. Aww. Just like that, yeah. And I was like, am I in a movie? I'm like, am I dead ass in a movie? Yeah. And I my heart just dropped. And I remember my mom was pissed. My mom was just mad about it. She was just like, oh my God, like, why can't you do both at the same time? Why can't your friends go to LA with you and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. As soon as I kind of got that approval from my dad, I'm like, okay, you know what? This man's, he's older. He's got so much wisdom. If he's telling me that he wished he would have followed his dreams at like the age of 21, why not fucking take the risk?
Was it scary though at the beginning? Yeah. Obviously, like taking that leap of faith, because social media, like you said, at the time wasn't even giving you enough to be like, you know what, fuck school. Yeah. Like, this shit can pay my bills. Yeah. Was it scary to actually take the leap of faith? Like, you know what, like, yeah, it's easier said than done, but like to actually do it, was that like super hard, like actually dropping yourself from school?
At the time, I had made this deal with my family before. So where they were going to put me up in an apartment with the roommate and then eventually just by myself if I was to go to school. Okay, so I was like, all right, mom and dad, like, fine, I'll go to school, whatever, for like however long if I have my own apartment. So boom, they're paying for it. And then when I told them that I wanted to drop out of school, they were like, okay, listen, well, if you drop out of school, then the deal's over. Like, we're not going to pay for this apartment. You're going to come back home, whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to come back home. Yeah. I was like, I'll figure out a way. So the scary part for me was trying to figure out how to balance buying groceries and paying for my apartment while also juggling my job that I had in my admissions department and then also the podcast. But I will say, though, it made me want to work a lot harder, because it's like, dude, I got nothing after this. Like, I had nothing to fall on. Obviously, my parents would take me back, right? It's not like they would say, like, hey, my door's closed.
But you didn't want to come back as a failure. Yeah.
No, exactly. No one wants to come back a failure, obviously. And when you have that behind you, the thought of like, holy shit, like, I'm going to have to figure out how to make rent. I'm going to need to figure out how to get these groceries. My friends want to go to a fucking rave like every other weekend. And even though they're fun, I'm going to have to fucking pay for that too. It definitely kicked the fire underneath me. And another thing too was, once the podcast also started to make a lot more money, it was kind of like I felt responsible for my friends as well. Because eventually my friends started to like, quit their jobs because we needed to be together a lot more often, to film a lot more often, to go to a lot more things. So I feel like that was another thing in the back of my mind was, okay, well, now I also am like somebody that's providing for my friends.
Like almost you felt like they depended. Like you had that pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. Because at the time I was doing everything. So like I was editing the podcast, I was editing the TikToks, I was meeting people, I was getting brand deals, I was talking to different managements. And then they really just had to show up for like some of the podcasts. And whenever I needed something, they would get it and stuff like that. There was just a lot of things on top of each other where it made me want to work harder. And I think that's the reason why we succeeded, was just because there were so many variables that like I had to be like, all right, well, we got it. I have to make it happen. Right. And I was going to school to be like a financial advisor.
You had that responsibility of like so much on your plate. You're like, how are we going to fucking make this work?
Yeah.
Starting something new isn't just hard, it's terrifying. So much work goes into this thing that you're not entirely sure will work out, and it can be hard to make that leap of faith. Trust me, I know. In the past, I've had a lash brand, I've launched merch, and even with this podcast. When I started this podcast, I wasn't even sure what I was doing. What if no one listens? What if no one sees my vision? Now I know that I was right in believing in myself and launching my podcast despite all fears and hesitations. It can also help when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Aloe Yoga and Rare Beauty to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create emails and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. Best yet, Shopify is your commerce experts with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processes, returns, and beyond. I love Shopify, amigas, porque en verdad que sí hace owning a business so easy. In the past, when I've had my lash brand and also whenever I've launched merch, I've always used Shopify porque hace todo super fácil. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/Allen. Go to shopify.com/Allen. That is shopify.com/Allen.
How did the podcast come to be? Obviously, you've been doing it. You created it, right? So how did that come to be? What in your head was like, you know what? I want to get some mics and I want to start a podcast to talk some shit with my friends. How did that come to be? How did you decide on who was going to be hosting with you? And what were the early, days of hosting for y'all?
Dude, it was a lot. It's just so funny because like you look back at that time and I feel like it's the same thing for you, Alan, where like it's like it happened in the blink of an eye, but it's years, right? Like it's years and years. But what happened was when we had graduated high school, that's when TikTok had first started coming around. And everyone kind of thought TikTok was this like, joke. It was just a dancing app, like, whatever. And then people started to blow up making funny skits. So I actually originally was on TikTok making funny videos, right? So like I was doing like funny skits, relatable stuff. And I had amassed, I think like 30,000 followers on it just by myself. And then eventually I was always with my friends and we were like, we should just start like a YouTube channel. So it started off as like a vlog channel. We did this like funny, these funny like series where we teach people how to get girls, but it would be like a parody, like it'd be like a joke. Like it's like, if you're listening to us, you need to hang up.
Don't take the advice.
Don't take the advice. It was supposed to be funny. And eventually people just started to really fall in love with like us, like as a collective, not really just like the idea of it, just as the collective. And I remember people in the comments were saying, you guys should start a podcast. You guys already meet up and talk. It's hard to hear a couple of you guys. Why not just get mics for everybody and do this shit for real? And I have this funny picture on my phone of like when I got my first like audio mixer, like one of the audio mixers back there, but it was like some old behemoth. Look, it was huge, it was heavy. I'm learning how to work the mics. I'm learning how to work the audio gain. I'm learning how to do it post-production and stuff like that. I'm learning like when to raise it up the mics, when to lower them down. Just eventually we started to do that more often. And then more videos would pick up. And I always tell people, all you need is one video. We had one video that like blew up. And then that blew up our TikTok. And then eventually another video blew up and another video blew up. And then just, it was like this domino effect of people kind of just falling in love with like this podcast full of friends. And then eventually when it came down, because originally it was like 10 of us, right? And we would just rotate. Like, it'd be like, I'd hit up the group chat and I'd be like, okay, well,
who's available?
Yeah, who's available? You know, who can make it this time around? And then COVID was ending. Once people started to go back to school or they had work or anything like that, it would always be the people who would come around more often, who were free more often, who took it more seriously than others, and who I realized had better banter. You know what I mean? Like, because you're obviously gonna have better banter with certain people. And the audience also fell in love with certain people on the video versus others. And eventually, it was like a puzzle piece. Like, everyone just fell into place.
How did you come up with the name? Was it like a youth thing, or like did you gather everyone? Were like, hey, we need a name. What are we gonna call this podcast? How did that come to be?
It's funny because like to this day, I don't know who made up the name, because we were in a jacuzzi at my friend's house and our friend Sean says that he made it up, but I really don't remember. Somebody had said like that we should do something that's about us. And we're like, okay, well, what are we? We just fucking live in the suburbs, right? And somebody else said something stupid like, oh yeah, and then we have a podcast, something about like talking, and somebody said like Suburb Talks. Like, we should just be called Suburb Talks. I genuinely want to remember. I really want to remember who said it or how we came about it, but for the love of God, I cannot remember who said it or who came up with the idea. But like I said, to this day, Sean says that it was him. So I believe him. I believe him.
He'll take the credit.
Yeah, I'll give it to him. There's like arguments with like 3 other people in the friend group who say that they made it up. But I don't know. I don't tell. I'm like, you know what? Whatever you guys want to believe, you guys can figure it out together. But I don't know.
Before it started blowing up, you know, you mentioned that you dropped out of college when it was barely like getting on its feet. Was there ever moments after you dropped out of college where you're like, fuck, I don't think it's gonna pop off, or like my dream is looking a little too far, too big? Like, was there ever moments that you're like, fuck, I think I made the wrong decision?
Yeah, I think that towards the end in like my junior college, it was more so like I had started to think about it and I was like, you know, how old was I? Like 20? I think I was like 19, 20. Things were just slow. Things were static. Like, it was just every video was hitting the same number below. I don't know if you guys have YouTube. You have YouTube. So, you know, you see those 10 out of 10, video after video. And you're like, maybe this is it. You know, I was posting on TikTok. Nothing was grabbing. And a lot of doubts, a lot of late nights where I would just stay up, not want to see my friends. Cause I'm like, fuck, like, maybe this is it. Maybe literally the farthest we go is right here, right now. And I can just tell myself, well, we at least went further than I would have ever expected. Because really at that time, at least I tried it, right? And I don't know what it was, but just for some reason, I didn't want to stop. There were moments where like I questioned myself on like, why don't I just take like the safe route? Why don't I just become a financial advisor? At least I have like a yearly salary, right? Versus me waiting to see what that check is. You know, when you have a job, a 9-to-5 job, whether you're a financial advisor or not, you might work off commission, but you know that at least you're gonna get that minimum of, I don't know, like
that paycheck,
that 2K, clear, 5K, whatever. And on top of that, you have commission. But when you're doing, you know, YouTube, or you're doing something like you're an entrepreneur or something like that, where you're relying on other things and other variables, when you get a check that's like 1,000 and the next check you get is like 100 and the next check you get is like 50, next check you get is 100, it's like, damn, man, I don't know, like maybe this is it. But for some reason in my head, I was like, if we can do this, I can do anything that I set my mind to. Because and that's why one of the reasons why now I always tell people, you literally cannot lose unless you quit. Whatever you do in life, you cannot lose unless you quit. Like, I've realized that with how I handle the business, how I handle certain things, relationships. People who I've seen fail at trying certain things in my life, they've just quit. They get in their head and they're like, you know, like, this is too hard. How did you do it? And stuff like that. And it's like, it's okay to doubt yourself. Like, everyone's going to doubt themselves. Like, I remember certain people would say like, oh, you can never doubt yourself. You know what I mean? You can never second guess what you're doing if you want to make it. But how can you not do that? You know, there's going to be a couple of really hard days, really hard nights. I had a lot of like close friends too. I'm not that close to them anymore. You? Doubting me. Yeah. Like, why do you do this? Like, oh, that's embarrassing, bro. Like, you're embarrassing. Like, just go back to college. Like, this isn't going to go anywhere. And for some reason, I think the biggest thing for me was whenever someone told me that I couldn't do something, I wanted to do it.
Yeah, it motivated you more.
Yes.
And I feel like that's very real advice. I've always said, I've done this probably like so many times on the podcast. I always like to say, this is your timeline, right? Like, let's say you're here, but let's say your success comes here. And if you stop here, because it got hard, because you're losing hope, you're never going to be able to like really enjoy the success that was already timelined out for you. You know what I mean? How have the roles changed over time now that you guys have made it to a point where we're like, oh shit, like we have something that really is giving us, we have become successful. Do you feel like the roles of every one of your hosts have changed over time? What are the roles and how do you feel about like the success it's had?
When we first started the podcast, it was very easy because like I said, we'd show up. I was always the one to make up the questions, right? I would just need my friends to show up. Most of the times we'd get drunk or whatever. We have a couple drinks and then we're on this podcast. And then obviously, like I said, it was just everything after that would be the hard part. So like I said, editing the podcast, editing TikToks and stuff like that. Now it's definitely changed because we have people like that are in charge of the Instagram, right? So we have Instagram posts. People are in charge of stories. People are in charge of captions. We have people in charge of like titles and stuff like that. As you grow, you need to start delegating work, right? And one of the biggest things too was I didn't want to delegate work to my friends because it's like they're my friends. Like I don't want to tell him or her like what to do.
And then you also think about like, bro, like they're not even making much. Like, why am I gonna give them a whole responsibility? Like they're trying to do this shit.
No, exactly.
I know what you
so
mean.
that's like one of the things. And then eventually though, one of the cool things too and why I also love working with my friends is they also would see that I'm getting stressed out or that I'm doing too much. They'd be like, bro, like, what do you need? Whatever I can handle, you know? I feel like with me, I'm very particular about like the videos being edited. Like I like them like a certain way. So I always tell them like, hey, story posts, Instagram posts, funny trends, whatever, you guys handle it. But when it comes to like editing the videos, I'll just handle it. You know what I mean? Now we have like a team of editors who I feel like I've trained really well and they're able to like replicate how I want the videos done. But I would definitely feel like people just have more responsibility now. And I think it's also really important because they feel like they're more involved in a part of like the process of growing.
How has it been like working with your friends? I feel like a lot of people, you know, say don't mix business with friendships. Do you feel like that's been a learning lesson for y'all? Obviously, as you guys have grown and have seen the fruits that the podcast has given you guys, do you feel like it's become a learning process where we're like, okay, let's sit down, y'all. This is getting serious. And have you guys ever had like maybe any like misunderstandings when it comes to working with your friends? And how do you guys navigate and get past those?
I'll definitely say working with your friends seems a lot more fun than it really is. I think that the best way I can put it is just the highs are high, but the lows are really low. Like the fact that I can make money with my best friends is one of the best feelings ever. The fact that like I'm there for like these big milestones, like when we're younger and you grow up, people, they talk about like who they're watching on YouTube or who their biggest role models are. And then when you can see them meet that person in real life and then now become friends with them, it's one of the most beautiful things ever. Like it's so funny because you go from like seeing your friend fangirling over a certain someone to now they got them in their contact. You know what I mean? And now they're friends with them. Now we hang out with them and stuff like that.
Or a lot of the time they're fangirling over y'all. Like, oh shit, I was your biggest fan.
Yeah, exactly. So it's amazing. So I love moments like that. But I will say like the lows definitely can be low. Like I said, when you're struggling, making money or someone's going through a hard time and they're not speaking about it, I would say that would definitely be like the hardest parts because then you let your mind run. Then you have people saying, you know, well, so-and-so's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So-and-so's not doing this. And then the person who is lacking or whatever, they have something going on in their mind. If there's something going on in your personal life, you don't really have to speak on it. Maybe you want to stay in one night, whatever, but we have a commitment to each other where we have to see each other multiple times a week. You know, like this is our job and this is our friendship. And I think that doing it for, you know, 5 to 6 years now, like I said, you kind of just learn each other and you learn how to navigate certain things. I think that the hardest part for all of us was just very much like trying to separate friendships and being coworkers, right? I feel like for me, there was a time where I felt very like, you know, angry with my friends because like they don't want to work as hard as I do or something like that. Or it's like they don't want the same things that I want when it comes to like the business or just growing as a whole, right? I think I only feel this way because they are my friend, right? Like if this was just some random coworker, you know, you just show up, you do your job, bro, and that's it. But like when they're your friend, you want them to go above and beyond. You know, you want them to ski, you want them to like pass you up. And I feel like those would probably be the only times where it's been hard is just when there was like some certain miscommunication. I feel like for me specifically, like I said earlier, when you're your best friend's boss, HR, coworker, a lot of things fall on you, right? When there's issues in the group, people come to you, right? And then they expect you to fix it. And in the beginning, I really didn't like it. I hated it. I hated the fact that sometimes I had to be certain people's like dad, right? Where I'm like, dude, like, you can't be doing this. Like, you got to speak in a different way. My friends, like I said, are always very open to listening and understanding. But, you know, recently we took a break from the podcast for a while.
I saw you guys just came back like 3 months ago.
Yeah, like 3 months ago we just came back. And I remember when we took the break, I kind of like didn't really want to come back because it was a really hard time before we took the break. We were just going through a lot, like as a friend group as a whole. And it was a lot of conversations that I had a lot of hard conversations. And when everything kind of came to an end, it ended really abruptly. I was kind of just like, you know, I don't want to be my friend's boss. You know, plain and simple, I don't want to be my friend's boss.
Is it really worth it at the cost of the friendship?
Yeah, you know, I felt like we really needed that break because I think if we would have kept pushing, I think that I would have looked at my friends a lot differently. And I remember telling them that too, because like I said, when you work with friends especially, you have to be able to be open with them. You have to. And I remember I was always open with them where I was like, listen guys, like if I keep doing this with y'all, if I don't get this break, if whatever the fuck happens, I'm going to grow to like resent y'all, like dead ass. And you guys are going to need to meet me halfway. You guys are going to need to be able to open up just as much as I open up with you guys. You guys are going to need to tell me what's going on in your lives, whether you like it or not. You don't need to go into full detail or anything, but like if you need space, you're going to need to say that you need space. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get on your ass about it, right? And then eventually I'm going to look like the dickhead where it's like, oh, well, I'm going through this. Can you just lay off of me? And it's like, bro, you could have just told me that, you know? So I would say like during that break, I didn't really want to come back because I was worried about that. And we all came together as a friend group and, you know, everyone kind of calmed me down and they were like, yo, like we all want to do this. This isn't something like we want to do this kind of like send off year and a half, whatever, where we kind of get the chance to just come together and do it like it's old times and enjoy it. And I feel like more recently, I've definitely started to fall back in love with it, fall back in love with the fact that I get to see my friends more often and stuff like that. But sometimes you just need breaks, you know? Sometimes
and I feel like it's real. I feel like, you know, also me too. I feel like my boyfriend and my best friend, you know, Irma, y'all know Irma, they have a podcast together. And now Irma works with me with my podcast, right? And I feel like a lot, you know, we've been knowing each other for plus 10 years, you know? So I feel like sometimes it's like a learning like curve that you kind of have to be like, all right, you know, you're my best friend. But when we're here in the studio, you're my assistant. So I think it's like learning how to really like separate the like, I love you, you're my friend, but like you're here on a job. You're here supposed to do what you got to do. It's kind of like knowing your guys' I guess like boundaries when it comes. And I feel like, I think a lot of people have that like negative, like, oh, you can't do business with friends. And I feel like it's the opposite. You can, but you have to communicate. You have to get to a point where like you both know like what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table and really like leaving work where work needs to be left, which I feel like is very important. And I feel like for a lot of people watching too, if you want to create a podcast or a business with a friend, you really have to, like you said, communicate, lay everything on the table, what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't, and then really work it through.
Yeah, definitely learning curve. But I will say that because I've been friends with my friends for so long and because of the business that we do, they have definitely taught me how to communicate so well. And like, even when I'm like seeing somebody or talking to somebody, it's very easy for me to like say what I want or say what I mean. There's no like subliminal messages. There's no like, you know, I don't really know how to like say what I want to say, you know, because I've been almost in a sense like forced to do it. But I will say another thing too with working with friends is you got to know your friends like strengths and weaknesses, right? You don't really want to put your friends in a scenario where their weaknesses show a lot, right? So again, like I said, it's a learning curve.
How do you guys deal with like the negative outside noise that sometimes can get in the middle of the relationship?
Yeah, I think one thing about us is that we really don't let a lot of comments get to us. I think that the internet also is a lot harsher on girls, for one thing. I've seen it a lot with Maru, where she gets a lot more hate comments or more opinion. People are more opinionated of her than they are of the guys. And it's really interesting because I feel like I've said probably the most outlandish shit on the podcast and like just in general. And people know me as, I guess, the outlandish one, the one that will say anything. But it's like people still have something to say about her specifically. So I would say that it's never really bothered me, but I can see it bothering other people. I always tell Maru, like whenever she like sees like a hate comment or something's bothering her, I always tell her, like, they don't know you. Like they really don't. Like I get that they can form opinions. I get that you're putting your life online, but like they don't see you offline. They don't know. People take things out of context all the time, right? So it's like they run with the clip. And that's it. They put the title in the clip. They don't have anything before or after that. Like they don't know you. So I feel like it's usually us trying to more so like reassure her to tell her like it's okay. Like these people, this is one comment. It's It's gonna come and go.
Yeah.
Plain and
Like
simple.
we're not seeing it that way. These people are, I feel like it is very much that. Like especially with online, I feel like a lot of people do tend to think they know everything about you with the 10-minute video that you're posting. Like, babes, there's 24 hours in a day. I'm posting once a week. You really don't know my life. And I feel like sometimes it can get to people, which is normal because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we have feelings, you know. What do you think are the pros and cons of being online?
The pros of being online, well, at least for me, is that I love being online. Like, I love social media. I love what I do. It's literally the best thing ever because I can pick it up and put it down whenever I want or whenever I need, right? Like I said, I love my job, but I think one of the cons of it is just, like I said, that anybody and everybody can form whatever opinion they want on you, and you kind of have to be okay with it because it's like once you decide to go online, once you decide to be an influencer, a content creator, whatever, you're signing a contract that says, okay, well, guess what? You're putting this spotlight on yourself where anybody anywhere can see one clip, or they can watch you for however many years you've been online, and they can say whatever they want about you. They can go out to a bar with all their friends and talk about how much they hate you as a person and not know you, and you have to be okay with it. You have to. And I feel like one of the things is sometimes like the internet is not for everybody. It really isn't, because some people, they can't handle that. And I feel like sometimes that happens with people who don't have much of an offline presence, who show their whole life online, you know what I mean? And they don't have friends offline, or they don't have a good connection with their family. But I feel like because we all have so many friends offline and we all do so much stuff offline, that it's okay for us to put the phone down and just go out, you know what I mean? And I'm cool. Like, my friends' opinions mean so much more to me. My family's opinions mean so much more to me than somebody who's seen a 10-second clip.
We're talking about the idea of being okay with, you know, people having an opinion on you, obviously with social media, and especially I feel like even more now with the clipping. I feel like it's very easy for people to start rumors, for people to like post something outrageous, and there'll be a lot of people that will believe it without doing their own investigation. What do you feel has been either a scandal or a rumor or something that you've heard about yourself online that you're like, bruh, like, nada que ver, like, no.
I feel like one thing is probably just like my relationship with Madhu specifically, that I feel like a lot of people clip up. Sometimes I feel like people can say that I come off like rude a little bit just because I'm kind of naturally myself. And I feel like I've seen a couple of like clips or stuff like that where I'm a little bit too mean to like Madhu or rude or whatever. And whenever I see a clip like that, I always text Madhu and I always tell her like, hey, just a heads up, I didn't mean anything like by this, or if I'm ever doing too much. Like, I remember when we first started doing the podcast, me and Madhu, like I said, since we've grown up together, I see her like as my sister, and I treat my sister like low-key, you know, like a piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie. Just because she's my older sister, like, that's just how you are. Yeah. And I feel like because I see Madhu like that, there's been times where I talk to her like a sister, and people will like be like, oh, like, that's kind of rude. Like, why would you say that to a girl, right? And it's like, I always tell her, and I remember we had to have a couple conversations where I tell her like, hey, if I'm ever doing too much or I say anything, we gotta take it out. I'll apologize all the time. I never want to make you feel like I'm putting you down or bullying you in any type of way. So whenever I see a clip like that, I always text Mom and just be like, hey, just a heads up, I'm sorry for this, blah, blah, blah. And all the time, she's super understanding. So I would say that's the one thing that I would see a lot.
And I feel like it's better when you address it in person, because I feel like a lot of the time people want you to get online and like address a stupid rumor, something that nada que ver. And it's like important, like you said, that once you see something, you go straight to the person, like, hey girl, like, I thought we were fucking around. People are taking it out of context. And I feel like, again, I feel like that's another big reason why I feel like your guys' relationship is still, you know, here today, you know, to finish off today's interview, which I feel like I've been loving this whole podcast episode.
No,
I feel
I've
like
loved it.
It's been running so smooth. And I feel like you guys at home are also getting to know Nick a little bit more, igual que yo, amigas. But we're going to end off with the question that I feel like, you know, I love to ask everyone. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, whether that's, you know, personal life, career-wise, family-wise, and donde te miras?
In 5 years, what is that? I'm 30?
Yeah, 30.
When I'm 30, I don't know. I want to be set up my own home. I don't know if I want kids and everything by 30. My parents had me a little bit later, which is why I feel like I'm not in a rush to get into a relationship and get married and have kids, because my dad, like I said, we were like 2 generations apart. My dad had me when he was 45. And my mom had me when she was like 36, I believe. So they've also always said, you know, enjoy your 20s, like enjoy them to your fullest. Don't let a girlfriend or a boyfriend hold you back from anything. Enjoy your time with your friends. I also always feel like, I tell people this too, like, your 20s are your time to like make mistakes, right? So like try everything. Don't be afraid to fail. That's another thing. Like I feel like so many people are so afraid to fail. When I'm 30, I just want to make sure that I can like look at myself in the mirror and just say like, you did everything you wanted to do. And whether you failed or you succeeded, you still did it. Like I feel like that's one of the most important things ever, is to just go out there and just try your best at anything you do.
That's a great way of thinking, because, you know, like you said, you really do have to push forward. You've been saying the whole interview, and I feel like every goal and every dream you have, just by listening to you talk today, I feel like you're driven enough to make it happen. Y pues yo voy a estar listo, amigas, en 5 años to see all the goals you've achieved for yourself. You know, with that being said, amigas, I've really been enjoying this interview, pero ya se viene to an end. If you guys have not followed him and his podcast, make sure you guys do so. I will leave the links down below as well as on the screen. Y también, si no me han seguido a mí, make sure you guys do so you guys don't miss any future episodes. And with that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan, for having me. I had a great time. This is amazing. This is a great podcast. Great podcast. I love the studio, and I can't wait to watch the video.
Period. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Take care,
bye, guys. Yay.
Perfect.